Of course, it's through to a forge here. There's a lot of information out there about making Damascus, and I know there are a lot of you that you're thinking about getting into it, starting for yourself. And just thought we'd do a little walkthrough tutorial that we'll put up on YouTube here. Just going to show you my process. This is just a simple way through to just go ahead and pattern weld steel, or diffusion bond it if you will, and put everything together and how I set it up and how I forge it. We'll just go from start to finish. Might be a little bit of a long video, but we will get to skip a couple steps where things are obvious. I'm not going to discuss safety at all in this video. I expect you to have that down at this point, and I'm not going to show too much saw cutting or anything. We're just going to kind of stick to the things that are important. So, please be mindful of that stuff, obviously. So we're going to start here with just two simple steels, reasonably simple, 15N20 and 26C3. We're going to put these together to a pattern billet. If your steel is bright, like mine is, you don't need to grind on it. If it has mill scale on it, that gray scale, you absolutely have to remove that first. These are both bright. You'll notice some rust on them. These aren't a big deal. I'm going to hit them slightly with a Scotch-Brite belt just to take that rust off a little bit. And once we've done that, we'll be ready to cut and stack. So again, just simple through how to. There'll be some forging in this, but we're going to try to keep this just kind of as a little primer for everybody, if it's of any use to you. If it is, please like the video. If not, I understand. Feel free to give me your thumbs down and your bad comments. I'm not saying it's the only way to do this. It's just my simple process for making a billet. Anyway, we're going to go hit these with the Scotch-Brite belt, and I'm going to lay them out and cut them into 4-inch long sections, and we'll catch back up on the video from there. Thanks. All right, just a simple Scotch-Brite belt on. We're just going to go ahead and knock this rust off mechanically remove it. It doesn't need to be perfect. The fitting is fine. We just don't want any build-up rust on them. So. Okay, now you'll see here that there's some discoloration still. This is fine. This will totally disappear in your billet. You'll never see it again. So on to the next step. Okay, now I've got them all laid out and I've cut them on the saw magic. At this point, we're going to stack them up. And you can do this however you really want to. It can be every other piece bright, every other piece dark. Multiple pieces to make thicker sections, thicker pieces to make thicker sections. I'm going to do one here that I kind of like. It's 3 dark pieces on each side, 5 dark pieces in the middle, and then we just alternate from there. And our stack goes together. I like this particular look just because it gives a little bit of more of an open pattern and makes for some interesting texture in the billet. Pretty simple and straightforward. We're going to need to weld these together, just a tack weld really to get them started. So I'm just going to clamp them so that I have a nice even spot to start from. I want them all lined up as well as I can. It's easier on you if you don't have anything hanging out. It can all be fixed, but it takes experience and practice to really deal with a billet that's kind of being a pain in your butt. so there's that all put together. I'm going to get my scale out of here so I don't spatter it. Okay, it's all set. It's in position. And we're just going to want to run a little weld on this. You can do this with a TIG machine. If you want it to be super clean, have the least amount of extra wire on it, you can do it with a MIG, as I'm going to do here just now. You can even do it with a stick if you need to. It's not a problem. You just need some way of manually welding this together to make sure that they stay connected. So here we go. Just a quick line on each side. Put a little hand on it just to make it a little easier to pour it. So nothing super fancy. Just a couple of simple lines on each side. You don't want any excess filler. If you get too much in the spot, you can just go ahead and grind that off. I'm not going to handle on it just because it makes it a little bit easier for me. There's a 25-layer billet to start, and the reason I do that is for the purposes of the material. Honestly, that's what fits in my forge. This can be as large or as small as you want, as long as you have the power to forge it. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and take a little pause here. I'm going to let my welder cool down, and then we'll move on to the initial forging phase. And we'll go ahead and we'll set these welds and get this put together. Awesome. Okay, so we've set the forge on. We want to set it to run at about 2100, 2150 degrees. You can accomplish this with a thermocouple, or I have one. As I've set up, I know exactly what my gas pressure is in this particular forge to give me that temperature. So I'm right at 13.5 pounds on the gas regulator, and it's in the fire. You can put this billet into a cold forge that's just lit, or you can go into a hot forge with the new billet. It really makes no difference of the amount of time that you're going to have between when you start it and when you handle it. These next few videos are going to be kind of short and smashed together. It might be a little choppy, just to avoid a whole bunch of time standing around waiting for a billet to heat up on the camera. So here we go, it's in, and we'll see in a minute when it's time to address it. All we're waiting for now is for that billet to come up to about critical temperature, right around the Curie point, just so it becomes malleable. There's no real reason other than that. We just don't want to oversoak. We just wanted to get it hot enough that we can introduce them. So I'm going to bring it out of the fire in a couple seconds. We're going to bring it over to the press, and we're going to give it just enough of a squeeze to introduce them to each other. We're not trying to make dimensional changes here. We're just trying to make sure that they're in full bodily contact with each other. So here we go. Now I'm going to flux a little with some borax sodium tetraborate. If you're not in the U.S., not necessary strictly. I can do it dry, but I like the forgiveness of the flux. billet goes back into the fire, and we start a 5-minute timer for 5 minutes. So then we get to stand around and reflect on how slow this is. Normally I got a few more things going on, but because we're doing this video straight through, I'm only doing the one video at a time, one billet at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and pause in between these sessions while it's just heating up. See you in a couple minutes. All right, our 5 minutes is about up. We've got about a minute left. When that goes off, we're going to pull this billet out of the fire. We're going back onto the flat dies of the press again. The key here is we want to be gentle. We're not trying to make big dimensional movements. It is a big 50-ton press, and it can just smash right through it. You can do this on even a little tiny, like 8-ton press from Coal Iron Works or something like that. At this point, it's just about introducing them. So with a little more pressure than last time, we're going to see a little bit of deformation, but all in all, the billet's not going to change in size much for this run. So, just about time. Here we go. Not worried about the ends so much, just the sides. The ends are going to end up being slight cutoffs anyway. A little more flux just because, you know, there's always time for lube. And back in the fire she goes. Now we're on for our next 5 minutes, so. Okay, the second soak's just about done. We'll be pulling this out. We're going to repeat the same process as last time. Remember, the most important part here is that we do clean, even forging. We don't press too much, minor deformation. The billet will start to shrink a little bit more, but it's still not going to change hugely in size or dimension. Just, again, we're introducing these steels. We want to keep them getting closer, keep building that weld, so that if we want to in the future, we can forge at different angles, and so we don't have any missed welds or any spots. So here comes number 2 press. Brush off. I will flux again here. You notice I put my borax in a restaurant sugar shaker. It seems to be about the best thing I've ever come up with an all-base borax. Get a good even coat. So now we're back in, timer's reset, we're on our last soak. On the next one, a little more things going to happen. We're going to have some changes. So, see you in a few. All right, coming up to the end of our third and final soak. Now this billet's pretty much welded. We can forge it in different directions. We can forge it on the bias. We can forge it on the side. I will go through and I will dress it one more time the same direction we've been dressing it. This is going to be a straight billet. We're just going to do a ladder in this video. So what we're going to do after that is I'm going to start drawing it down to size. I'm going for about 2 inches by 5/8 of an inch. I want that to be pretty regular because after that we're going to put it into an eel. We're going to cut it tomorrow. We'll be the end of our day with this. We'll cut it tomorrow, we'll restack it, we'll do this weld process all over again to build layers. Bring us up to about 100 tomorrow, just depending on the billet size when it's done. So here we go. I'll just keep you on and keep talking you through this as best I can. There's our timer. calibrates a little bit better when it's a little higher temperature. We're not so much worried about overheating at this point. We are decarburizing a tiny bit on the surfaces of the steel, but the core of that steel is well protected. It's just a very thin layer on the edge of that that's going to decarb. The malleability is good. Annealing later on and heat treat will fix any grain structure problems we have with overgrowth or anything like that. So right now we're just worried about good, solid welding practices and getting this billet down to a good size for a restep. That should be about enough heat. Back here we go. Heat a lot faster because we're getting thinner. So I'm going to warm it up a little bit. You see I got a banana, but we're going to fix that. I'm going to move this 5/8 out of the way. 2-inch block's going back in. First thing I'm going to do is bring that billet back down to 2 inches wide. And we're going to drop back to the 5/8. We're going to go ahead and get our dimension finished up. It'll probably happen in this heat. And then maybe a little more warming up and straightening, or we'll be able to straighten right away on the flats. Just waiting for a little more heat in our billet. The most important thing here is good, clean, even forging. There's cleaner and more even you can forge the piece along both sides. Straighter, again, bananas don't matter, you can straighten them back out, but just nice even forgings. We want to come down to where we have a good, even, uniform size. There'll be a little bit of variation on the sides, obviously, just because of the forging process and on the face. But we want a billet that's relatively consistent, so it's easy to restack. There we go. straight and even billet. Smoke the glove a little bit. She's all welded up. We're going to go ahead and set this down, let it cool for a few minutes, cut the handle off. And and then we're going to throw it in the Paragon for the evening on an annealing site. Alright, we put the billet in the Paragon. We're going to go ahead and close it up. Just running a standard annealing process on it. So what we're doing here is the same for 26C3 and 1020 as it is for 1095. So there's its annealing. You don't specifically have to anneal at this stage. You could hot cut this and continue moving on. But tomorrow you'll see the next process for moving on in the next video that's coming up inside this video. I prefer to anneal in this just because I like the convenience of it. I like to be able to make the really straight cuts I can make on the saw. And also the saw's kerf is a lot thinner. Though you could of course throw a cutoff wheel on your grinder and just cut it off with a 6-inch grinder into pieces. This just limits my waste, lets me have a little more control. In addition, on a bandsaw cut on the edges, I can see the patterns. So when I'm doing more complex patterns where the pieces have to face particular directions, I can actually see that pattern on the end without etching or anything, well enough to orient the billets. So it's in for the night, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll continue doing this and move on to the next step. Thanks, guys.